Welcome back to the Soundodger 2 editor tutorials. Today we're going to be looking at bullets, the meat and potatoes of the game. So you'll see we have our BPM already set, we have our grid ready to go, our colors are set up here, we have our number of enemies, and I think it's time to start working on adding bullets. So we have a grid here of 10 different layers, and you can add them anywhere you want. It makes no difference, it's just for organizing things. If you want to add a bullet somewhere between, you can always make the grid more dense or less dense, so you can use the left bracket, right bracket, or these buttons here. So if you hit right bracket, it'll keep making the grid more dense until you get to the density you want. Keep in mind it might go a little slow until I make things a little more optimized, but that's a quick way to get things there. If there's something that needs to be like on a third, and you really need to get that exact amount here, you can always turn off grid snap and kind of move something. But keep in mind there's a little bit of a shortcut. You can hold shift while the grid snap is on. So things are snapping right now, but if I hold shift and start dragging, things will be the opposite of what's going on. So a little quick shortcut there. Other things you might want to do is change which layer it's on. So you can hold control while it's selected and go up and down, and it will in fact move up and down to different layers. You can hold control and select multiple, and you can drag those just the same. You can have them go up and down different layers as well. Another interesting thing is if you have an offset of bullets and you start changing which layer, they'll actually start collapsing into the same one as you go up and down. So it's a quick way to get them all into the same layer if you want to do that. You can also use the selection tool over here, which is the V key, and you can just drag and highlight your bullets that way and drag them again as you wish. Again, you can always hold shift and start moving them ever so slightly. Keep in mind that nothing's going to snap while there's multiple bullets selected. So for example, if I have these ones slightly off from each other, and I select all three and I have grid snap on, and I move this one, you'll see that they actually maintain their spacing and they stay exactly how they were before. So that's something to keep in mind, that things will be preserved. So rest assured with that. Also, all of these grid sizes and BPMs are strictly for use in the editor. The actual game doesn't read them at all. So that's really just for you. Other stuff you can do with the bullets is copy and paste them. So if you have it highlighted, you can Control C. And if you right click to get your playhead somewhere else, you can paste to your heart's content. You can copy and paste a whole bunch of whatever you want and, fill things in rather quickly. Middle mouse click, by the way, is for dragging the bar back and forth. It has a little bit of a physics to it, so it's a nice smooth drag. You can also drag this little bar down here as well. So that's it for working with the bullets. You can always see what they look like by right-clicking and hitting spacebar. Oh, I almost got it to match the music. And that is how you get bullets set up on the timeline. Right now they're just firing regular arrows. That's not very interesting, so let's actually get this to be one bullet again, and we're going to take a look at the marker deck, which is all of the properties of this bullet itself. So right now it's firing from enemy number 1. They're all numbered here. We can have it be any number of enemies. You can also click and drag to paint which ones you want to do, to quickly kind of add them all, erase all but one. If you want to change one very quickly, you can just right click and set it to that number, and it'll unhighlight the other ones as well, so you can just make it quickly whatever you want it to be there. So we'll do 1 and 5 and 3 and 7. It's a nice little plus sign there. You can see everything for the enemies are arranged into 2 different rows here, so you can very quickly find pairs. So 1 and 5 go together. The type of arrow is really the fun part. This is the type of bullet that you're going to have. So it is an arrow right now, but you can change it to anything you want. You will see that there's a drop down here, and that is only going to be for arrow because we picked 4 colors before in the editor settings window when you picked your colors. So this is where you change the color of your bullet, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And the bullet color here will actually be reflected. So if you look down here, you can see that this is color 1 and this is color 2, just because those have the different color icons there. So nice little way to differentiate them visually from the editor. So we'll put that back on. You'll see if I switch to homing that you can't click this anymore because I don't have a secondary color for that. So the patterns here, we have normal pattern. We'll keep that as it is. Aim will always aim at the center. If you change it to player, it'll aim at the player. You can see the little green lines is where the enemies are aiming. It's wherever you are. And world, they are both aiming straight up, and that's just world aim. And we'll get to that in a second. So number of rows, we'll keep that at 1. The offset, you can see, changes as we slide that left and right. the amount of bullets is how many are going to be fired in that one moment. So right now it's 1, but we can change that to 5, and it's going to look the same. Like if I fire it, it looks like the same. There's actually 5 bullets right there, and the reason you can't see them is because the spread is still 0. So if I open this spread, you'll see the cones open up, and if I fire again, you'll see that you can see all 5 bullets in each spread filling out that cone. Speed is pretty straightforward. That's how fast the bullets actually travel. And you can do a whole bunch of different patterns here very quickly by playing with these things. So let's set everything back to the default as it was before. And let's see, like D5, spread 0. Let's move on to stream. This is a bullet that keeps getting fired over and over by the same enemy. You'll notice it has this extra bar that's added, and you can click and drag this. This is how long the stream lasts visually. So if I click here, you'll see the stream lasts for the duration of this bar here. But you also notice we have a bunch of double bars here. These used to be single bars, but now there's a beginning and an end, and there's actually 2 different cones now. So my offset can be something for the beginning and something different for the end. The amount is always the same. The speed can start really slow and get really fast. And let's see, we'll change our amount to 3, so we'll see our spread change. So our spread will be 0, and it'll actually get really wide as we go. So this will look like just a few bullets that are going slow, and then as we keep going, they get faster and more spread out. So very quickly you get interesting patterns like that. If you change this back to normal, it'll just kind of keep those values as they were, so you can change between them as you want. Burst is kind of like a random explosion of stuff here. So if you set your cone to be pretty wide, and we'll add a whole bunch of bullets, they'll be between the speeds of 1 and 10 randomly within this cone spread, and it'll only be this amount. So we can do a whole bunch here just to get the idea. So let's see what this looks like. That's a whole bunch of bullets. We can even do one. You kind of see it's going to be different every time. Every time you fire, it's going to be different. So that's something to keep in mind if you want to get a whole bunch of random bullets quickly. You can also do interesting things like, you know, we'll get to that later. I'm getting ahead of myself. All right, so that's it for all the things going down here. You'll notice that if you change to certain bullets, you'll get additional properties here. So here we have lifespan. This is how long the homing bullet is going to home in on you. So usually it homes in on you for 3 seconds, and that's why the number 3 is here. If I change that to 1, you'll see it's only going to home in on me for 1 second, and then it's gone. Let's see. Bubble is the same idea. That's just a big old bubble there. It takes up more space quickly. The hug is a special bullet that actually needs to be touched in order for you to get a perfect score. So if it leaves the arena without you touching it, it counts against you. So I have to actually touch it like that before it leaves. If you let it leave the arena without touching it, you actually get penalized. And there's the red circle down there to let you know that's what happened there. Big hug is very similar, except now you have to be in it for a certain amount of time. So this one has a meter that fills up, and right now it needs to be filled in for 1 second. But you can change that to whatever you want, so we can do 3 seconds. So you need to be there for 3 entire seconds. Oh, can I do it? Oh, just missed. I think 2.5 would work. 2.5, let's see. Oh, wait, I can do it. I didn't start early enough. There we go. Barely got it. So that's something to keep in mind there. We have some different properties. You can also leave the hug. So you can start, come back, and then keep going later. So keep that in mind for when you're designing around that. The plus is kind of like a boomerang. It's actually the plus from the original game. You can see this one has its own property called pep, which is how much pull it has, pulling it back. So if the speed is 10, you'll see that it shoots this far out to the center and comes back. But if I make the pep really low, like 2, it's actually going to shoot really far out and take its time getting back. In fact, that was too little of a pep. If I add 3, it'll barely get to the edge and then be pulled back. So that's kind of like a push and pull, a little dance between pep and speed to try and get the right balance for what effect you're looking for. I mean, you can have all of them shoot at the same time. You have this really interesting effect where you have to dodge them, go in between, let them come back and stuff like that. Lasers are always streams because they have to last for a certain amount of time. And so you can see a laser has that same dragging duration bar here. The duration you can type in, you can drag it, whatever you want to do. The laser is the only bullet that actually is appearing on the screen before it actually fires. So 1 second before you actually see this little warm up, and then it actually fires. So So you can be inside the warm-up and not take damage, but once you are inside of the working laser, it does hurt you. All the same stuff works here, so you can animate the laser to start over here and come back to over here, so it'll be a sweeping laser and go across the screen. You can change the amount of lasers that are being fired, but again, you need to change the spread. So if you can't see the spread, the amount of lasers that you set, it's because the spread is still 0. I'm actually going to start at 0 and go to like 60. And we'll keep it at 0 so you can see the effect here. So it's going to start looking like one laser and it's going to spread out into 5. So you kind of see how it does that right there, which is pretty cool. You can do fun stuff like have, let's see, you can have 4 lasers and the spread can be 270, which is the math there to make it a full circle. It's spread into 4. So if I do that, it'll actually be 4 right there. And you can change the offset from 360 to 0. So it's actually going to do oh my goodness, from 50 to 0. And you can have it do this nice little rotation here. Have that last a little bit longer. Maybe we'll go to -50. Okay, let's see. So you have a nice little challenge there that's going on. Maybe we can make the mount. Whatever, you get the idea. So that's the cool thing you can do with lasers. And the last one we have here, well, we have error as well. Heart is something for you to collect. We're not going to do a stream of hearts. We're going to do a normal heart, offset 0. This is something that you collect in the game, and it's actually marked on the level select screen. So something to work for. This is also the other thing in the game that you touch. So if you touch the heart, you'll collect it, and this heart gives you an extra hit in the game, so it'll let you get a better score later on. If you let the heart leave the arena, there's no penalty, so those are okay to leave. And you cannot change the color of the heart. And the last thing is the error, which you also cannot change. That is not an actual error. It is literally called error. That's a bullet from the first game that we carried over, so that's in the game as well. Don't worry about that. Is there anything else I missed? Let's see. Oh, let's look at world aim real quick. So world aim, we're going to fire world aim. So you can see, we'll do a stream so you get the idea. So let's see, reset these. Okay. World aim, just fire straight up. If you change the offset to, let's see, 90, you can kind of guess that it'll go to the right. And the cones show you that as well, so you can have things fire from every enemy at the same time. And you can have, if you had the arena spinning, they would keep spinning to the right. They wouldn't aim at anything in the arena. They would always just lock to that one direction. So you can have them start aiming straight up. You can have them go straight down, and then they're going to go from up, and they're all going to aim at the same time going down. There we go. So that's it for working with bullets. The last thing I want to show you is you see an extra copy and paste button here. This down here is for copying the actual bullet. So if I copy and right click here, we can hit paste and it'll paste the same thing again. This here actually just copies the data inside so that you can paste it into other bullets without like having to delete and make a new one. So you can see when I make a new bullet, it's always this default, this 1150. If I go here and copy this, you'll see not only if I click a new area to make a new bullet, it remakes that same one. So you can quickly make the default whatever you want. But also if you go to another bullet and hit paste, it'll change that property of that bullet without you having to delete it and make another or copy and paste that. So you can even select a whole bunch of them and paste that, and then they'll all do that. Oh, another thing you can do is if you have multiple bullets with a stream pattern, you can actually drag one of them and all of the duration bars change at the same time, which is very convenient. So keep that in mind that they'll all lock to each other. They won't be relatives, so they'll all be the same exact amount. That's kind of a fun little thing you can work on there. Let's see. The last thing is parallel, which I will show you here. Let's get these out of the way. Oh, I'm hitting the delete key, by the way. You can also hit the trash can to delete them. So the last thing, if you're not in world, if you're in player center, you'll see there's this parallel option here. If you have three, let's see, enemies 1, 2, and 3. If these guys are firing, you'll see they aim right towards the center like that. Oop, they're still rotating. They're going to aim right at the center like that. But if I turn on parallel, they'll actually be parallel to each other. So they're actually going to fire like that, which is pretty cool for getting different types of patterns you couldn't get before. And the more that you add, the more that parallel angle changes. So here's 5, they're going to go straight across. If I just did 2, it would look like this. Right, so if you do opposite ones, they're just going to go to the right, because that's parallel between them, just aiming to the right. So those kind of things are pretty cool. You can't do that very easily otherwise. And so that's a quick way to do that. Same thing for player. It looks a little funky because they're like aiming at you while they're doing it, but it does actually work mathematically. And then world aim is technically always in parallel, which is why you can't really click that while it's going on. We'll get to the advanced button in a later tutorial because right now there's a bunch of stuff there we haven't gotten to. But that is it for right now. You can always select all, Control A, you can move things around, whatever you wanted to do. Should I go through? There's only a couple more things here. If you want to reset the position of all of your enemies because you've been spinning and doing all this stuff, you can hit this button here, which rewinds all the way back to the start and changes the position of the bullets back to how they were. If something is going too fast for you, like right here, the song's a little too fast for you to place bullets or test it, you can hit the half speed button, or H, and you'll be able to hear everything at half speed. And the last thing you might want to do is test the whole thing at full screen, because right now this might be too small for you. So if you hit G key, everything is full screen. You can hit spacebar and still play around and do whatever you want to do, and even switch to half speed with the H key. And that's about it for working with bullets. Tune in next time when we will be looking at the brand new feature in Soundodger 2 called prefabs.